G'day and welcome back for more Mission Improbable. And I'm staring at my lab vats because one, I need to grow a clone, and two, I really struggle with adding interesting color to my interior spaces. Like I've got this blue wall, which is something, but on this side, it's kind of lacking. And annoyingly, if I go to paint these vats, it kind of ends up painting the exterior wall too. So you'll see it there, which is not ideal. Which made me think, is there another way I can get some interesting color in here? And I think I might actually have a method. If I cut this block out and we replace it with a light. So now we have a glow coming from inside the tube. Cool. And I can then also reduce that radius quite a bit. Move the offset to the middle of the tube. Could even put it at the top of the tube so it looks like they're lit from above. Move it to the bottom of the tube so the light's coming from down there. Oh, no, we'll go middle because then I might replace the roof ones with this as well. But I was going to then mess with the color. But I need to find out what color is going to complement my blue walls first. Yeah, that kind of works. I know it looks like there's light coming from nothing, but I think that almost suits with the sci-fi nature of the lab vats and the bubbles going through it. But I just really wanted to add some interesting color in here. Now, annoyingly, I'm not sure what to do about this one here because it's got the conveyor junction for the oxygen tube above it. But I might have something I can do around that in a second because I'm not sure I put the oxygen tank in exactly the right spot anyway. I almost feel like I put the oxygen tank too close to the wall and that maybe it should have been where I've got this hydrogen tank. There we go, lights fixed. Now, oxygen tank, I'm sort of tempted to put it up on the wall instead of laying flat. But the other idea I had was to move it back a block because then it adds further to the depth here rather than taking away from it by being right there on the edge still. The downside of pushing it back is I then have to cut out some of this to make it into conveying. The upshot of the wall, of course, is that I don't have to deal with that issue. There's another alternative. Nope, that looks too much like something else. What does that look? Oh, I kind of like it. I'm gonna go vertical like that. Now, grinding down the other one wasn't a problem because it was still empty. I'm gonna need to take the mining ship out and get a full load of ice to pressurize this place properly. Yeah, I actually much prefer it in the vertical orientation. Now, you might notice a few times during this video that my voice kind of changes a bit mid-sentence, and that's because something went really weird with my recording and it's dropping fragments of some words. I haven't figured out what the problem is, but I've had to re-record myself saying some things because it was really annoying. So apologies, this was the best solution I could come up with. Otherwise I was going to have to redo the whole recording once I figured out what the problem was. But I didn't want to do that. So this was the best I could do. Yeah, and with those slopes on there, that at least makes this feel complete until I decide that I want to rework the antenna setup. Because I would like to put a light up there. I did put this on the top. Oh, which is a light. Blinking light. I thought it was something else that I'd put on the top. I wanted to put a blinking red light up there. In the distant past, someone, I think actually several someones, told me what the blink intervals are supposed to be for these sorts of things. But I tend to just go with 2 seconds and 30. Obviously we can't see it because it's daytime, but if we do a little bit of something cheeky, that is barely visible. Cool. Alright. That's... that doesn't do a lot. So now we need conveying, and what I thought would work interestingly here is if I cut through here. That's unfortunate. I guess I'm going down. And I'm going to cut the end off this pipe and turn it into a T-piece and drag it up to the top, I think. Conveniently, this is inventory access until I cover it up. Yeah, that works. Except I did it wrong. There was a comment, and I really like it. I just haven't figured out how I could do it, if it's at all possible, which is to label these 3 pipes Duff Regular, Duff Light, and Duff Dry. And I can't think of a way to put a label on there. It'd have to be like an LCD with a power source and a mag plate in small grid stuck on there, and that all gets quite chunky. So I don't know how to do that label, but I really I really like the idea. Speaking of some other interesting suggestions, one of which was to put some neon tubes down. I think I'm gonna have to go like this as kind of harness attachment points along here. Nothing can attach to those reinforced conveyor tubes, which is annoying. So yeah, the only spot I can put them is either there, or up the top, then it wasn't really visible. Let's go with what I just had. So at least then it is a little detail that actually shows up. And that's why the railing ends. Alternatively, I could try and make a railing in small grid and or make a railing using 2 small grid mag plates, but I think that'll be too big. So I just couldn't think of a better way to do this. So we'll just do those clips and then it's all good. Now, on to bigger projects, because that was just some little finesse that I wanted to do around this place. I'm pretty happy with where this building is at from the outside for the moment. I don't think it's got too much that needs to get further improved upon. There are little details I'll do over time, like I'm definitely going to add some of the pipe elements in, make this roof a bit less boring, that sort of stuff. But what I'd like to do now is start renovating this area. Jeez, I came close to going backwards into those wind turbines. That would have been bad. Because I'd like to get a proper refinery building, and I'd like to get a proper landing pad built. Because this thing's got to go. And I'm going to make the landing pad out of this big block. I'm not sure if this block takes damage from thrusters. I know the blast door blocks don't, but I don't like the fact that they're different heights to the rest of the platform. So what I'm thinking of doing is use this. It's got 100 steel plate on the top. It'll take a while for it to take enough thruster damage for it to matter, if it even does take thruster damage. So that'll be my landing pad. And what I thought I could do with a landing pad, since the sun does set over here, is try and make this sort of the front of the building, because that is where you enter, even though I've been focusing a lot on this side because that's where the sun often is. This side actually spends a bit more time in daylight, which is unfortunate. I didn't really plan it based off where the sun goes. I planned it off the view of this station over here. So my thinking was make a bridge from here over to a landing pad that's at the same height as this deck. So there's a reason for this deck to exist. And if I cut a hole in this wall bit here, I kind of need a way to fill it in. And one option would be to try and use a passage 3 frame, but then I'm stuck with another issue, which is I've got no floor. I don't think any of the corridor pieces will help me there either, because there's no half corridor bit. Because these do have a lot more bits with floor, but they don't have any half width pieces, which is unfortunate. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do to make this wall look more continuous, even though it's now got a section cut out of it, is to give it a bit of a roof with panels like that, and then I can go and put a catwalk bridge there, which will hopefully look okay. Oh man. Okay. It's a little annoying. I will not be welding up any catwalks for a little while, because those small steel tubes are going to be needed for if I put any conveying in somewhere. So I don't want the landing pad too far away. I think that should just about do it. Then what am I going to do? Make this connected so that I don't have to be funny with it later. I'll put some neon tubes down on here. Really going to be needed. They're just going to be handy for me for laying this out at the moment. So landing pad. What sort of blocks have been used over here? Okay, I see what's been done. They've used the triangle pieces. I don't think I'm going to use them, even though it does look cool having the landing pad 45 degrees rotated to the building. I think mine's going to be square on. I think it's a bit too big for... Yeah, it's way too big for my needs. I was so... Yeah, that's not working. No. Nope.
Low.
I'm going to go connector in the middle like that. Oh. Actually, I'm going to do 2 landing pads. So I'm probably going to have more than one vehicle land here. How's that go? Yes, okay. The shape is starting to come into... I'm starting to get a clear idea of what I want to do with the shape now. So with that, I can get a clear idea of how big I want this to be. I reckon underneath these landing pads, I should keep it open, but I'm going to put the cargo containers down there. A couple of the big bulk containers are going to sit underneath this directly. Let's see how these structural frames look on this. That could work. See how much of this I can weld up for now. How many small steel tubes do you need? 12. Alright. I still have enough in my inventory. Now my refineries aren't doing anything at the moment, so I can just grind them down and get them out of the way. How's that look as a landing pad? Needs some more details, but getting there. I think some of the details that I'll do now, because I think they always make a huge difference to landing pads, are going to be adding some hazard stripe and then adding some lights. I'm tempted to put fences, but not in the usual orientation. The thing that's going to make them awkward though is these corner bits that I put in. What I think could look interesting is if I put these down like that. So they're a little bit of a sort of a catch net around the thing to prevent people falling off. But I think I can do that. I think I'm going to have to actually put them properly attached and vertical so that I can put these corner pieces in and have it make some semblance of sense. It's possibly a bit overdoing it on the hazard, but we'll see. Definitely need lights next. During the next night, lights to make sure that they're the right sort of ranges and amount of light, but I think that gives me a solid landing pad for the moment. Now I can clear out some space underneath, and I can move the miner. Cool. That's going to get me back some small steel tubes. And take off. I'm going to put a camera on, because I got cameras now. Make docking just that little bit easier. Camera behind it? Camera in front. Camera in front. Oh, it can't place it on the vent. Okay. The vent has no purpose here anyway, so I'll get rid of it. Since I'm on Mars, and there is no oxygen in the Martian atmosphere. That's something that a lot of people brought up. There are some planets... Actually, maybe put the camera inset? Let's check out what the view looks like if I do the camera like that. That might be better. Yes! If I was down a block, I wouldn't see as much, but I'm not actually blocked. That's perfect. Anyway, a lot of people were like, why didn't you just build a vent and oxygenate your cockpit that way? That would be because Martian atmosphere has no oxygen. The alien planet isn't breathable, but you can concentrate some oxygen from it. So maybe that's where a few people were coming from when they were thinking about it. Mars doesn't have that, so if you put a vent in this atmosphere, you'll get nothing. And vents only work on the atmosphere of the grid they are on. So you can't even stick a vent inside a pressurized space and depressurize into it, because it won't count as atmosphere. Because if it's not atmosphere on its own grid, it only checks for planetary atmospheres, not for other grid atmospheres. The only entity that I'm aware of that checks for other grid atmospheres is the player. Alright, that's cleared out. Let's get some supports in now. And possibly connect up the conveying, but I might do that after I place in the bulk cargo containers that I'm going to place underneath here. Oh, wait a second. Do I need to move those batteries first? No, probably not. They can stay there for the moment. So I like the idea of maybe trying to figure out a way to use these structural frames, because they are a nice big piece. But there is an issue with them that shows up as soon as you look at them and like, this is a really big block. I can't poke anything through it, can I? Oh. Or can I? Oh. Oh. I can. I have an idea. This is a bit over the top, but yeah, I'm doing it. So I'm going to put a pair of hinges and use a subgrid in the middle, because that's going to be able to go through the middle of that. Thank you, unlocking hinges last time. So the idea would be we go hinge there, hinge there. Should be able to, I hope, place conveyor. Might need to move this a little bit to enable the next one to be placed. Move it a little bit off to the side. Yep, this way. Yep, place another one, and then we go back to our hinge part. Oh, no. Oh. Oh, this isn't going to be happy. Is it going to let me do it? Yeah, it lets me do it. That's not super happy about it, because this collision box is a bit too big. Let's weld this up and see how it behaves. I mean, it's technically fine. I just have to make sure I never free this end without planning for it, because there's a lot of potential energy tied up in this right now. The reason being, you can see there's a gap just there that isn't present at the top. This whole thing is being pushed up by the collision of that support brace, but it's letting the conveyor go through. It's functional. So I'm gonna count that as a win. I think these blocks need a bit more bracing on the sides. They're a bit thin on the edges, especially compared to their diagonal beam, which is super thick. So hopefully these extra half blocks, I think, will manage to make that look about right. Yeah, I really like how that's come together. Now to see how the cargo containers might work. Ow! That wasn't any harder than that. It's not ideal. Oh. These will have to be set in the ground if I put it under there. Okay, so there's just going to be one cargo container then. Alright, it's one block from the end? Yeah, it's one block from the end. So it'd have to sit there. I reckon I'll go with that one. That could look quite tidy. Let's weld it up and see how it ends up looking. Alternatively, I could leave all of this space clear, just because I think it might even look nicer without it being filled up with this bulk cargo container, and then put a pair or a triple of them somewhere just to make them look like big stacked containers. In fact, that's going to be the way I go. Let's not put it down there. Oh, no. Let's put it down there as a temporary place for it to go. Temporarily permanent. Like so many other things. Fortunately, I linked the two connector points. The deck height. So this cargo doesn't need any connection on either end. Which means I have an easier access point for cargo that's not requiring yet another cargo container. There you go. How's that going to look? I think the yellow might need more saturation against the purple. We'll try this. I'm calling it purple. It's kind of a indigo. Oh yeah, there we go. That works alright. Though maybe that's not the right color because it's got the yellow, and that's two yellows. Let's try this out. And there's more of an orange. That's actually Mars. I just made that Mars terrain color, and it kind of works. Yeah, I'm really surprised at how well that works. I'm happy with that. I did pick the indigo purpley blue color because it worked well with the Martian background color. I wanted something where when you look and they're setting off each other, it just works. I was building two mice arounds. Well, painting to mice arounds, I should say. And I'm using a palette generator to pick the other colors that's given me some ideas of things that might work. Like this coral, pinkish, rusty, almost rose gold. That's based off that color palette. Just so I get stuff that complements reasonably well. I find it's really handy to use one of those color palette generator sites to come up with interesting color schemes that you wouldn't necessarily normally associate with space engineers. One of the things I find myself doing a lot when I use those though, is they do give you a lot of pastel shades. So if you want to have a bit more contrast, you're going to need to up the saturation a bit, especially if you like, as I do, building with the battered skin, because it takes a lot of the color out of it already, and so you need to boost it back up to whatever those sites tell you. I'm quite happy with that deck now. Yeah, this is coming together quite nicely. Let's get you undocked. Won't be docked up, but I'll just turn it off so that it won't run out of juice. Now I know that cryo tube's not going to work, but I've got the one upstairs. But this is just going to stay parked under there. I think it's kind of nice to have something parked under there. I do need some lights put in. Pop though, and make it obvious that there is something there. But Let's hop into the cockpit of the miner and start transferring all of the goodies across to our new bulk cargo. Ooh, why is it not piped? Goes from there, around to there, through to there, through to the connector. The connector goes through the incomplete reinforced conveyor tube. Of course. Now I could have used the build info command that I used last time, the /BICN, which then shows you your conveyor network, but I didn't. What? Yeah, I am going to use it this time. Oh, I put it in upside down.
Inventory.
I thought I'd rotated it the right way. I really thought I had. That's annoying. It's so nice having a survival kit so I don't have to worry about being out here and getting injured, because I know I can just get my health back, which means I can spend a lot more time building. Now, I need to make sure that I reconnect the power. Okay, wind turbines are reconnected. I'm thinking what I'll do eventually is, once I've decided how the refinery building's going down and things like that, because I don't want to place all this and realize I've done it wrong, is I'd like to run some conduits around to show the power flow within the base. Now, we have landing pad. We have Rover dock, which is temporary. That's why it's got a floating line of conveyors to it. We'll deal with that soon. We get some health and some food, and then we can figure out where this refinery building is going. I really want to have something that looks covered in tubes, but still functional and still has room left for an expansion to include the big refineries if I eventually find some, which I should, but I don't know when. And once it's in place and I've got it kind of mostly laid out at least, then I can start looking at what I'm going to do with this rover. But I'm just going to put it to the side until we have a base that's a bit more complete to come home to. Because this now, I really like this. I'm really happy with how this has come together. We've got something quite cool. It is interesting though, as I go through the now mostly invisible safe zone boundary, you can see the light going on and off inside the... And that's because the tinting apparently uses the same shader layer, I think it's a shader layer, something like that, as the safe zone does. So it kind of overwrites it and means there's nothing in there. It's kind of... I've used it to handy effect in some screenshots before where I've used it so you can see directly into a cockpit because the tinting goes away if you shoot through a safe zone. And by shoot, I mean take a screenshot, not blam blam. I'm thinking maybe, looking at this from over here, thinking maybe refinery building at the back here. Leave enough room that my little rover could go out the back end of that building, but also I could maybe sort of close it off. But I think leave enough room that it can drive out, but then put the refinery back here, because then I've got wind turbines, I've got this, and they're kind of laid out in a little 4. That could be kind of tidy. It does mess with my plan around this pipeline, but I could just have this pipeline coming out, going to a post, and then going out this way, coming to the refinery building back here. I'm also thinking about this in terms of this is one of the cooler views of the base, and it would be cool to see the refinery building as part of that, but then so's this angle, and you can see it from this side too. I think I've got an idea of how to do this refinery. So I think part of this conveyor system that I built is going to have to be replaced, but what I need is doubled or tripled up pipes for a lot of it. But let's start with the actual refineries themselves. They're going to be outside, and I think I'm going to build them at this height. So they're a little bit off the ground, but not too much. So if we go 1, 2, 3, then leave a gap. So instead of doing it all on one big building, let's have multiple little buildings that are all set on little platforms. So refineries like this. Then I can put some detail in the middle and put like a little smokestack on this, or a pair of smokestacks. Then we're going to need the pipes, so I need some interior plate. Ow! Oh, that makes me nervous. Should really probably get on making that clone. I'm in the zone. I want to do some building. I'm sure it'll be fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong. But I think I've got this too close to the ground for the moment, so I'm just going to place it to get a clearer idea of exactly how high I might need to make this. But I think the idea of having multiple modules like this kind of works. Tapes running in between them, then we'll have another section which is going to be like the assembler, and then another section which is the O2H2 gen, and have some hydrogen tanks, have it all kind of connected up, run pipes not just directly between these, but also do pipes that run off. So there are pipes crossing over each other, which will make it all look much more interconnected and complicated. Obviously, Space Engineers requires 0 of this, but that's kind of the point. Because it requires so little, I think I often build too little to make it the part that I want it to look. I'll try lifting this up now that I've got a clearer idea of how it's going to possibly fit together. Something I haven't worked out yet is how I want to support these things. I don't think the big supports will really work here. I think they're just going to be a bit too big. Or maybe they're not. Maybe at that height they'll look kind of cool. One of the things when I'm using these pipes is I need to remember better to put in some of these T-pieces and then use the cylindrical columns as supports. Because I think it works quite nicely to give it some support. Otherwise they kind of end up looking like they're just floating in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Double pipes running down to here. There'll be like a little pipe interchange there where I'll put some weird convoluted stuff in, and then it'll go over to the conveyors, over to the landing pad. I think the big rover may end up parking over this side in the future, but we'll see how things look once this is all together. I did say that the the stairs were redundant last week, and then a bunch of you said, no, they're not redundant. You're gonna run out of jetpack sometime. And they were correct. I did. Because I just used it then. So, if we're using those round bits as supports there, I probably maybe could use it as an exhaust on this. I'm not sure. Kind of want to use it, even though there are other exhaust around it, like I could use just conveyor. But I don't think I can place the exhaust, like the actual exhaust block, on top of a conveyor, because it attaches in the center. Now, do I want to go with those, or do I want to go with the exhaust cap? I think I want to go with these, actually. Which I wouldn't normally. I think they'll actually work for this. Oh yeah, with the supports underneath and then maybe catwalks around the top, this could work. Those support frames actually do work quite nicely. I was thinking I was going to have to go... Oh, scaffolds too. Keep forgetting scaffolds exist. All these things that require small steel tubes that I'm going to have to go out and forage for. Scaffold there, scaffold there. With the scaffold on that side, I should be able to place down upside down graded catwalk, double up on my railings there so that I can put the end cap access in here. And with more catwalks running around this place, it's going to add a lot to that visual noise that you kind of get from looking at a refinery. Kind of the prominent feature of anything that's meant to look like a refinery is there's just tubes and stuff going everywhere, and it makes it all really hard to figure out what's going to what, and I think that'll be really nice. So let's see if I've got enough small steel tubes, make this functional, and then I can weld up the other bits as we get as I collect the pieces. There we go. Refineries are technically... No, they're not. Why are you no connected? Ah, that one's missing. Okay, now they're connected. Not sure what to do with the O2H2 gen. I could probably do something much more fun with it because we've got the DLC variant. The lab one. That does feel more like an indoor generator. But I think a pair of these on a little platform like this. Have it spaced out because it'll be a different shape of platform. It won't be square like this one, which could work nicely. So thinking of it, this is actually really is quite... It's a perfectly square platform. But I have a way to make it not so square. Although I could probably just hide it on the side here instead. We don't need this conveyor junction. Thinking I'd do is put the event controller that's going to control those exhausts in there. So that gives us more buttons and more things that are lit up that'll kind of make it feel more detailed. It gives us a reason to have the catwalks running around to there. And then some ladders that go up to it. which I think will continue to make it more interesting to look at. Let's see how much else I can get built around here. Oh, already out of small steel tubes. Not much. No more conveyors. Should be able to build these 3 refineries though, as well as the exhausts on top, and set them up. I think this open design rather than inside a box will set off nicely against the one that is inside a box. I want to try this in the other color though. Where's the color on here? See how these look in orange. And then the exhausts gonna be that, and then maybe they need to have dark grey. Where's the dark grey? Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Yeah. This might be too much of the orange, but I think with the fact that Mars is the same sort of orange, it'll kind of minimize that feeling, which is good. Now I just need about 10,000 small steel tubes, or an assembler with which to make them, because I don't recall if I could buy any. I will check though. If I can't, I'm just going to have to go and do more missions. Small steel tubes are not for purchase. That's what I thought. So are there any more salvage contracts nearby? We've got 95, 100, 32. Yep, take that. Okay. So in my GPS list, I now have quite a few salvage sites. We'll see if any of them are a cluster now and are worth going to in one big group. Let's go outside to make that easier to tell. So what do we have? We've got just one on its own over there, one on its own that way. Oh, those two are so close to each other that they're on top of each other. And then there's a 42. Okay, so that's a decent cluster. We've got 5 of them. It's going to be a long trip, but they do look like they're fairly close. Let's separate them. Yeah. 38, 40. Start from the left, go right. That should be pretty good. Sweet. Yeah, the other ones are much too far away. I think that's got to be the plan, because I can't really build anymore right now. And with the plan in hand, I think it's time for me to wrap things up, and I'll be back very soon with some more Mission Improbable, and I will see you then.